Hi guys, it's Mandy here, coming to you from my bed because I am not very well right now. I have a cold, but I just wanted to make a video today because I've been doing a lot of sort of Bible studies lately, and sort of talking to people online and stuff, and I tend to find that it's quite common for a lot of people when you get into discussions about, faith and religion, is that a lot of people confuse religion with faith, and I think. Sorry about the movement. I've got my laptop on my lap. Sorry. But yeah, a lot of people tend to confuse religion with faith. They think faith is religion and religion is faith. It's like, no, guys, you need to separate them. They are two completely separate things. Religion is the practice of faith. It is not faith. Faith is what you believe in. You can believe in whatever you want. You could believe that Nelson Mandela is God. You could believe whatever. You could believe that your deodorant stick is God. You can believe that, but it's how you worship these things. That is what the religion is. Religion is how you worship. And I think a lot of people tend to confuse the two. They tend to go, oh, because we sit in church and we say the Our Father and that's our faith. It's a no. Our faith is believing in a being that is purer than us, that is pure innocence, has never sinned, created us because they love us, because he loves us, and he wants to share his love with us. He is the ultimate parent. He is better than any human parent you can have because he is pure. He knows everything about you. He knows what is truly best for you, unlike a human parent who is flawed, who has made mistakes, who never gets everything right, who, despite wanting the best for you, can't provide the best for you all the time. So that's what Christian belief is. That's what faith is having faith in a being who is purer, greater, and more knowledgeable than you, and who you can look up to, like you do look up to the professors in your school, and how some people look up to idols, pop icons and things like that. You should be looking, instead of looking up to another flawed human being, we look up to a pure, innocent, and all-knowing being. So, that's what faith is we look up to that. As to how we worship him, that's religion. And religion can vary drastically. You can create your own religion. You can create your own religious practices. That's the thing, is that a lot of people tend to go, oh, your religion is inconsistent. Yes, it is inconsistent, because despite the fact that we all believe in God, Christians, should I say, we all believe in God, our religious practices vary drastically. And so you can't rely on religion alone, which is why it's important to read this book. You have to read this book in order to know, first of all, who is God and what does he expect from us, and how should we exercise the religious aspects. He doesn't explain it completely and in great detail. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we practice in our religious systems that probably God looks at and goes, this is ridiculous. But there's probably some of it based on what's in that book, but it's veered off quite drastically. So God is probably up there going, these humans are just being ridiculous. Yeah, so I think we need to distinguish the difference between religion and faith. Faith is what you believe, religion is what you practice. And if you disagree with the practices of a faith, you can disagree with the practices of a faith. That's not a problem. You can say that I don't think the practice of going to church and getting on your knees and saying the Our Father 20 times over or whatever, and then drinking a vase of wine and taking a bite of bread is really going to do anything for you. You could believe that if you want. Christians believe it is a good way of getting in contact with God. But look, God just wants, like, the one thing that we all agree on is that God just wants to get to know you. He wants you to get to know him. Well, God knows you already, so he just wants you to get to know him like you know everyone else who is in your family, like you know your parents. He just wants you to get to know him, and he wants you to be friends with him, and he wants you to respect him, and he wants you to hang out with him, and he wants you to talk to him like you do anyone else. And how you choose to do that is entirely personal between you and him. If you don't believe in going to church and stuff like that, fine, don't go to church. But there are some benefits to going to church, because there are things in this Bible that maybe you don't understand. So it's good to go to church, not necessarily for the rituals, if you will, but just so you can get in contact with people who know more about the book and understand it better than you do. That's like the very basic sort of reason why you would need to go to church, is just to sort of get in contact with people who understand the Bible and who can explain it better to you if you don't understand what it's talking about. I mean, it's a very complicated book. That's the thing. It's a very complicated book to follow. I mean, unless you really truly want to understand it, you're not going to understand it. It's like if someone wants to build a rocket ship to the moon, but they have absolutely no interest in rocket science, you're not going to be able to do it. You have to be willing to understand this book in order to be able to read it, because, like I said, you can't build a rocket ship to the moon unless you know rocket science, unless you are willing to understand what rocket science is and how it works. You're just never going to be able to do it. So you've got to be willing to understand this book, and you've got to be willing to learn from other people who understand it and communicate with them. And that's really what you can go to church for. And are there churches that fail in this regard? Yes. Churches are not perfect, guys. If there is a church that you find that is failing to teach you something about God or about the understanding of the Bible, maybe find another church. You don't have to go to one church. I mean, if you want to go to multiple churches, go to multiple churches. It's not written in stone that you have to go to one church. I mean, what my understanding of the term church actually means is the unification of believers. So it's not about, this particular building is a church. No. That's just a place where we get together with people who worship in a certain way. But the church is everyone. So Protestants, Catholics, Methodists. If you believe in God, you're in a church. It doesn't matter how you practice, but if you believe in God and you believe in the way he loves you, and you believe in what he wants for you, and you understand who he is, and you're reading your Bibles and trying to understand him as a character, that puts you under the umbrella of a church. The church is the faith, but the religion is how you practice. So the religion is Methodist, Catholic, Orthodoxy, Protestant, Evangelical. Those are the religion. That's the religion side of it. But the faith is, I believe in God, and I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe Jesus Christ came down to save us. That's the faith. That's the faith. But how you practice is entirely separate from it. And I think we need to help people understand what the differences are and to separate religion from faith. So if you're sitting there going, I don't want to believe in God because I don't want to be involved in all these practices, fine. That's fine. You don't have to be involved in all these practices in order to believe in God. You can believe in God and stay home and separate from all of that. But I'm just saying, if you are struggling to understand the Bible, then don't be afraid to go to these churches doesn't matter which church you go to, just go to a church and ask people, take the Bible and say to someone, introduce yourself like you would anywhere, and just simply say, look, I'm having difficulty, find a priest somewhere, doesn't matter which church, and just simply ask them, like, I'm having difficulty understanding what the Bible is talking about, and so could you please just help me understand it? So yeah, we just need to basically just help people understand it better. And I think that a lot of the religious practices tend to scare people off as well, because they tend to get sort of bogged down with this idea that unless we go to confession every day and unless we confess all our sins to a priest, God's never going to forgive us. And it's like, well, look, from my understanding is that God already knows everything about you. He knows all your past, present, and even future sins that you will make. He's already forgiven you for them. He's already forgiven you for them. And from what I understand of the Bible and God and the faith is that there is one sin that is unforgivable. Just one. And that is the utter, complete, and absolute denial of his existence. When you know in your heart that he does exist, and you completely and utterly refuse to acknowledge him in any way, shape, or form, when you refuse to acknowledge him, that's the unforgivable sin. And also, not just that, but it's also not just not believing and acknowledging, but also blaspheming him. Not in the sense of just saying, oh God, this, but it's more a case of like saying that he is the source of all evil. That I think is the actual unforgivable sin. That's from what my understanding of it is. It's utter denial of his existence, and then also then saying that he is the ultimate source of all evil. That to me is, from my understanding of what I've done in my research, is the unforgivable sin, is to blaspheme God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit all in one, just to ultimately throw insult to injury at him. And that's what he won't ever forgive you for, because that's the ultimate form of denial. Because you don't want to know him. You're assuming you know him. You don't want to get to know him. You don't want to put the effort into getting to know him. And you're just shutting him out. You're shutting him out. He's not shutting you out. He wants you in his house. He's standing there with open arms saying, come to me, people. Come into my house. I love you that much. Just come home. You know, like any father would be. He's like that, hence the story of the prodigal son. I mean, if anyone knows the story of the prodigal son, you know, a young boy wants to go out and live his life in the world because he thinks he knows better. So his father gives him his inheritance, and the boy goes off and squanders his inheritance, living a life of pleasure and whatever else. And then the world that he's living in ends up falling apart, and it says in the book, it refers to it as a famine, in order to describe the fact that there's no food, there's no water, people are impoverished, and things have fallen apart in this place that this kid thought would be a wonderful lifestyle for him. Anyway, so he's now living in a pig's field, and he's working feeding the pigs. So he's covered in filth, he's covered in pig slop and all the rest of it, feeding these pigs. And I think it actually says in the book that he's in such dire straits that he's actually resorting to eating the husks that he's even feeding to the pigs. He's that desperate. And all the while he's living like that, his father is waiting with open arms for him to return. He's praying that he will return. And, sorry guys, my partner came in with some bacon and food for me. So I'm going to be eating some bacon bits. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so the father's standing there waiting for his son with open arms to come home, and he's hoping for him to come home. eventually the son does come home, because he comes to realize that the servants of his father are living a better life than he is. He's the son. He's the father's child, and he's living a worse life than the servants of his father. And so he goes home, and his father is so overjoyed to see. He sees him coming. He's so overjoyed. He runs from wherever he is to where he sees his son. He runs to greet his son and embraces him in joy and love. And the son says in humility, I'm sorry for being so silly. I apologize for my ridiculous behavior, and can I come home? I will earn my keep by becoming a servant in your house as a form of gratitude and penance, if you will. And the father is overjoyed to see him. And he says, yes, you can do that if you wish. Keyword, if you wish. And he then takes to celebrating his son's return. So that there is the story of it's an allegory for how God is basically, he's let us go into the world to live our lives the way we want to, and he's waiting with open arms for us to return. And when we do return, it's to be in humility, to be humble, and to accept that he is greater than us, and to live in his house, heaven, is a far greater honor than we deserve, because we're just lowly sinners, and we do things wrong, and we can never live up to his standards. So it's an immense honor to be let into his house, and he's willing to let us into his house. That's the thing, you gotta remember, he's willing, he wants us to be in his house. But of course there is the condition that you have to be willing to be humble and obey. And like I said before, all he asks of us is to get to know him, and to know what he wants from us. And the problem is we tend to let our pride stop us from doing it, because we're so prideful. We're like, no, I know better. I know more than this God. I know what a good life is. He doesn't know anything about me. He doesn't know me. You know, it's all that sort of arrogance and pride and egotistical attitude that sort of leads us to want to walk away from him and go, I don't want to believe in God, because Miley Cyrus is a better choice of idol to worship. So Miley Cyrus, or Renee Zellweger, or Will Smith, or, you know, we tend to look at celebrities as being better idols for us to follow than, and yet they're all just as flawed and sinful as we are, and yet we tend to look up at them as being better. Anyway, I don't want to go into a huge lecture about that right now, because I don't have the capacity for it. Anyway, so this is just a little video to sort of clarify the difference of faith and religion. I hope it makes sense to you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Oh, yeah, I think I should probably warn you guys that I will be sort of varying my videos and subject matters to be more religious based. If I do come up with anything else that I want to talk about, I will put it up, but it is mostly probably going to sort of start turning more religious, faith-based videos. So, sorry if you're not interested in that, then by all means. But that's really what I want, to sort of start turning my channel into a more faith-based channel, subject matter. I will probably still make film reviews occasionally, and I will be maybe putting up some art videos, so it's not, I'm not going to stop doing those things, but it's just I'm probably going to put more faith-based videos out there, so just a word of warning if you're not into that. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video, so hopefully I'll feel better by then. Bye.